You're listening to the Mangroves to Mountains podcast, where we talk all things outdoors, hunting, fishing, paddling, camping, adventure travel, and more. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, welcome and thanks for listening. Today we're going to be talking about everything peacock bass. How to find them, how to catch them, where they live, what kind of flies you want to use for them, and this is going to be specifically fly fishing. I'll mention probably towards the end some techniques for catching them on spinning gear, conventional tackle, but this particular episode is about fly fishing for peacock bass. So first things first, where are they? So of course they evolved in the Amazon region of South America, but I don't fish there often or ever. Someday I'd like to, but so we're talking fishing for peacock bass in Florida, specifically South Florida. So they're not cold tolerant fish, so we're talking Miami, Broward, Palm Beach counties, and on the west coast of Florida, Collier and Hendry counties. I think that's the west coast of Florida. I think that's kind of a fairly new thing. The peacock bass in South Florida and Miami were stocked originally in 1984. I'm not sure. I don't think they stocked them on the west coast of Florida. I think it's probably transplants, people just taking fish across and releasing them. That'd be my guess, but I'm really not sure why they're there or how they got there. It doesn't seem like they've been there as long. I think within the last 10 years there's a fishery that's developed over there. When I go over to the west coast, I'm usually fishing for snook or tarpon. I have caught some peacock bass fishing for those species, but I don't go over there specifically to target peacock bass. I've got so much good peacock bass fishing right here at home. There's no need to go all the way hour and a half west to fish for them. So they're South Florida fish. They exist, I think, as far north as Lake Okeechobee, but I've heard in the Rim Canal there's some. But I think every few years we get a cold spell and it kills them off, or what pushes, maybe doesn't kill them all, but the majority of them. So we're really talking South Florida. They're freshwater fish only. They don't tolerate salt very well or at all. So the places I've caught them with tarpon and snook has been pretty freshwater. So like I said, they were the peacock bass, and we're talking butterfly peacock. I think originally in 1984 they stocked both butterfly peacock and spotted peacock bass, but the spotted or speckled didn't really make it. So the fish you catch here now are primarily or maybe entirely butterfly peacock bass. In South America, I think they've recognized 12 species of peacock bass. I could go over the list, but it's basically just different river systems have different species of peacock bass. There's of course some overlap there too, but primarily in South Florida, it's going to be the butterfly peacock. They get their name, of course, by the colors. They're very bright colored, yellow, green, black, a spot on their tail, the red circle, a red spot. Red eyes. They're just beautiful fish, just gorgeous. They don't even look real sometimes. You get them out of the water, it's like, this is not, it looks like an alien. It doesn't look like this could possibly be real. Looks like an aquarium fish on steroids. But yeah, they're just gorgeous fish. And their spots are unique. I mean, they do have, most if not all have the spot on the tail, but I've seen other ones with really unusual markings on their sides. Some have just the classic 3 bars, vertical bars that the butterfly peacock has. And then some have like that plus spots, different places. Just like redfish will have multiple spots at times, not just the one on their tail. Peacock bass are the same way. I'm sure you've heard, they've become very popular with fishermen. People travel from all over South Florida now just specifically to fish for peacock bass, which is great. Often I'll get a client and we'll go out and fish for tarpon or snook for a day or two in the kayaks, and then if they have an extra day, like maybe we'll do a half day for peacock bass closer to Miami. It's just a great way to spend a day. Another nice thing about peacock bass, since they're really a equatorial fish, they like very warm tropical temperatures. So the warmer the water, the better. So I rarely fish for them first thing in the morning. Often I'll wait till 9 or 10, let the sun get on the water. And late in the day when the water's the warmest, they tend to be the most aggressive. That's the time when they're really out looking, feeding, and just their metabolism functions best when the water's warmest. So, you can sleep in. I've had clients that are like, yeah, can we yeah, I want to do a 3-day trip. Can we sleep in one of the days and start later? I was like, yeah, let's go for peacock bass that day. That's perfect. 10 o'clock. Start at even 11 if you want. We'll fish the rest of the day and sleep off the evening before and get after it late in the morning. So I've had people ask me, where can I find peacock bass? Where can I fish for them? Well, if you're in South Florida, just look at any body of water that's freshwater. A canal, a creek, a pond, a lake. I've seen them in some really strange places, and they like structure. So a lot of times you'll see one of my favorite places is behind a strip mall, and there's a pond back there. It's public, you can fish it, and there's somebody dumped shopping carts in the water. Well, that becomes perfect peacock bass ambush places. Plus, they like to spawn around structure, so it's kind of ugly to look at. But if it's going to hold a 4 or 5 pound peacock bass, so be it. Let's get after it. Let's catch one. So yeah, you do find them in unusual places, but pretty much any body of water you see in South Florida, like I said, that's fresh water, is going to have peacock bass in it. One of the best times of year to fish for peacocks is summertime when the water's warmest. What they do a lot of times ahead of storms, if there's a hurricane coming, the Florida Water Management will release water from these canals so we don't get flooding. So they'll release water, it'll go out into the bay, but it creates from very stagnant or very slow moving water to like a river as soon as they open the floodgates, and the peacock bass just line up, and it's just really one of the best places to fish for them is during a water release. Just fish downstream of the dam, and you can just blind cast and catch peacock bass. They're just so aggressive because there's so much bait in that moving water around it. Just creates a great ambush point for them. Also, snook and tarpon and largemouth bass will be there in the mix as well. As I said, we're talking fly fishing for peacock bass. So what kind of tackle can you use? Well, you can use pretty much anything. You can use trout tackle, freshwater trout. You could use anything. I've seen people catch big ones on 3 and 4 weights. But typically in fly fishing, you match the weight of the rod, the weight of the line to the size of the fly you're throwing. So if you're going to be throwing, pretty big clouser minnow with lead eyes, it's a heavy fly, you're probably not going to be wanting to use a 3 or a 4 weight. I would recommend a 6 weight. My favorite rod is a 7 weight. I use that for a lot of different species, but a 7 weight's a great all-around rod just in general for tarpon, snook, bonefish, small tarpon. I mean, peacock bass, largemouth bass. When you're throwing big poppers and big deer hair divers or any kind of big or wind-resistant fly, 7 weight's a great all-around rod to use. The lines, I would recommend a floating line for most applications. The one caveat to that would be fishing in that when they're doing the water releases, I use an intermediate line or even a sink tip to get the fly down a bit. I'll kind of cast it out cross current, let it sink for a few seconds, and then work it back really fast. So, but for the most part, I'm using a floating line. I like to use top water or just below the surface flies for peacock bass. So, floating lines just cast those better, and just get them up, and they're a very aggressive fish. So if you get it up in the water column, even like right on the surface, and fish it really aggressively, peacock bass will come out of the woodwork that you didn't even know were there. You didn't even see them, and all of a sudden you'll just see a streak, and they're on your fly. So for these fish, it's not like your bass fishing. You really want to fish the fly aggressively, fast, about as fast as you can. Strip it back. You could even use that two-handed strip set where you put the rod under your arm and then strip the line with both hands. I've seen people do that for big tarpon now too, that technique. You can do that, or just keep the rod tip low and just strip as fast as you can. And usually when I get the fly near the end of the retrieve, right near the bank, I'll just sweep the rod to one side or the other.